Hi, I'm Jonathan J. I want you to meet Darren. Now, Darren bought 21 businesses in an 8-month period. On this video, you'll learn exactly how he did it. If you want to see more videos about buying a business, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and very importantly, click that notifications bell because that means that YouTube will send you a notification every time I release a new video. So Darren, you bought 21 businesses in 8 months?
8 months.
8 months. I want to find out how you did it.
We very quickly started sending some letters out, getting some traction, some pipeline. I don't know if you recall, but we sent in the region of 1,500 letters out in June 2020.
Yes. So were you on my fast track in May 2020?
It was around that time.
Yeah, it was like 5, was it in the evening, 5 evenings?
Yeah, there was.
Yes.
It was around that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I owned a group of IT businesses. I owned that group at that time. And we'd grown that business over the kind of previous few years by acquiring other IT firms. And in comparison to buying an IT business, buying a hair salon was ridiculously easy.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with typically hairstylists, not business people.
Mm-hmm.
So June 2020, we sent out a bunch of letters, about 1,500. We had just over 300 people contact us from them. And
which is an incredible percentage, but I suppose that was because they were all closed.
They were all closed. There was a lot of, time to think, time to reflect, and we got an incredible response.
And rent to pay, regardless of no income coming in.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I can't remember whether furlough was a thing at that point, actually, because that came slightly after.
Yes, it did. Yeah,
lockdowns.
Yeah.
But we had a great response, and we continued. I mean, we bought 21 over an 8-month period. So between kind of June-ish 2020 and Jan-Feb 21, and we did that for a reason. We kind of set this very loose goal of getting up towards 20 for two reasons. One, if we're going to do this, let's create an impact. Let's get noticed by some of the big names. Create a story to tell investors so we can go from 20 upwards thereafter. But also, we created this group from a standing start of nothing, and 20 salons enabled us to create a group hierarchy.
Yes.
And put the relevant resources in there so that we could trade them without me having to do any work.
Where if you've only got one salon, typically the owner works in the salon, does the bookkeeping, orders everything, deals with the clients, and you can't build in a management team with one salon because there's not enough income to support it, is there?
That's right. And I had this goal from early 20s to retire at 40. Okay. Retirement for me was having complete control of my time, having no job, and I had this IT group in 2020, and I'd started the process of trying to sell it to someone, and actually my kind of headline across anything I got involved in was it can't create a job for me, because I had this goal, and I turned 40 in November 2020. I sold the IT group in October. I sold the IT group in November. Mm-hmm. So that severed my ties to a job.
You achieved your goal.
I achieved the goal, and the last thing I wanted to do was get involved in something else that then created a new job for me.
Yes.
So we set this minimum target of 20, and we had to get up there in a really fast pace, and we by and large got there. The last 4 or 5 we acquired, we rushed because we were trying to get through. We were trying to get up to that number. And then,
that's interesting. You should say that, if you don't mind me interrupting, because I've had similar experiences where you have a target and it's almost by hook or by crook you will meet that target, but you sacrifice something else, don't you?
You do. So we were very disciplined when we were looking for the salons. They had to be a certain shape, size. They couldn't be reliant on their owners in terms of revenue contribution. The last 4 or 5, we started to. Don't worry about that. We're working
to get to the magic 21.
To get to the magic, minimum of 20. So we've, I'll come on to it, but we've subsequently over the last 18 months binned off 4 out of those 5 and acquired 4 more. So we've got rid of some of the rubbish ones and replaced them with better candidates, which probably we should have done at the time.
And what determines a rubbish one then? What were the characteristics of those?
So we bought a couple where they were, we bought the lease, 1 or 2 members of staff, if that. So we effectively had to try and rebuild the client base, rebuild the revenue. All of the others, we bought the revenue, we bought the staff, we bought everything inside the business. So whilst COVID had an impact on them, there was enough critical mass in them that
to recover post-COVID.
Yes.
So because this is a bit of a drum that I'm beating at the moment about buying distressed businesses, because I've bought distressed businesses, and actually I've been successful with that turnaround and that sale on to someone else. But I've also bought distressed businesses and failed because I've just given up on it. It's just too much effort, too much work. So I always say buy solid, profitable businesses, because the business might look good for a pound, but you're going to pay in terms of time, stress, energy, and probably have to put money in.
That's right.
And it sounds like those 4 or 5
Yeah.
were more distressed despite the pandemic.
They were, for various reasons. Yes, I mean, they sucked cash, but you had a bunch of them making money, and they were supporting these 4 or 5. So we've not had to put any cash in ourselves, but certainly they were draining cash flow from the group. But the main, the main challenge we had with them was the drain on time, as you mentioned. We were very optimistic when we took them on. We said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll find clients."
Because he's already bought 15, 16.
Yeah.
So it's like, we know what we're doing now.
Yeah. That's it. And actually, in reality, you're coming out the back of a pandemic, finding new clients in that sector, as many sectors is the same. It's not easy, even though we've got a marketing team in our business. It takes a good 18 months to build, a column of clients for one person, let alone a team of 5 or 6. So, we've had a lot of successes. We've had to do a lot of work on consolidation and integration.
And we're going to talk about that on another video, aren't we?
We'll talk about that on another video. But as I say, we recognise that. We opened the doors in April 2021. They've been shut for quite some time. And that was quite interesting because we bought them all when they were closed. And you suddenly open 21 doors and all sorts of things come out.
The boilers don't work. It's like all the things that worked before suddenly stop working. The tills don't work. Yeah.
And we bought in a sector, that they were heavily impacted. This sector was heavily impacted by we knew that. But actually one of the assumptions that I made was this is a recession-proof sector.
Mm-hmm.
When these doors open, you're going to have a flood of customers running through the door to get their services and get their haircut and whatever. And actually the entire sector, we work quite closely with Weller on this in terms of tracking it. The entire sector, certainly up until this year, has been trading at about 30% off of pre-levels.
Okay.
And we noticed that across all of our salons. But one of the benefits of operating a group is, and having the right resources and team in our head office, was we were able to react and engineer our way around that. So rather than us crossing our fingers and hoping the sector recovers, we just re-engineered the cost across the group and we brought it down to trade within the landscape that it was facing.
Okay, which again, I suppose, if you were the owner of one salon, you don't have that. You don't have any scale. You can't make decisions like that because you only see one isolated viewpoint of the world.
That's right. It's very difficult to do it with one to a handful of these businesses because these are, a salon is a micro business. They're very small. A good salon business is 250 to 300 grand of turnover. So it's much more difficult to engineer cash flow and engineer balance sheets and all of those things that you can do in larger companies, but actually glue loads of them together and actually you can be quite smart about what you do. So we've got them all grouped in various locations. So there's 2, 3, all within a 5-10 mile radius. So you can suddenly start consolidating down headcount and doing all those nice things, which was quite handy.
Buying a business is just so rewarding, and I put together a free training showing you exactly how I do it. If you look in the video description below this video, there is a link. You click the link, you're taken through to the training, watch the training, and I'll show you exactly how to buy a business successfully.
Over what period of time did you do that? I mean, how, this sounds like quite a piece of work to accomplish with 21 locations. So what time frame are we talking about?
I mean, I'd probably say 18 months it's taken.
Okay.
We've just about, so between April and back end of 2021, so April 21 and December 21, we stopped buying them because we were looking at this group of salons that lots of different pay scales, pricing structures, and so on. And I know we'll come on to that.
Yeah, we'll talk about consolidation separately because it's such a big and important subject.
Yeah. So we just stopped buying. We went into 22 and we bought 4 salons last year. And actually they were, all 4 of them, really fantastic deals. I mean, one of them, the lady wanted 100 grand for a business making 80,000 in profit.
Right.
And she stupidly told us a bit of information and we ended up getting her to pay us 20,000 to take the business off her hands. So we've done some really smart bits of business in the last 12 months.
So that this is something which I think we should explore, because everyone starts off thinking that the way to buy a business is you go and borrow money using your house as collateral, the bank gives you the money, you write the check, the owner gives you the keys, you own the business, good luck. And of course you can do that, and I think many people do that, but it's not the smartest way of doing it. Now, you obviously got yourself educated about all the different ways of doing this and probably developed your own tweaks to processes for your sector, and also actually for the time period that you were buying in, because there were various quirks, weren't there, during that probably helped you finance the acquisitions a little easier.
That's right. Yeah. So quite a few of the earlier deals, we were able to leverage some of the lending to fund the acquisition. But actually, that's been and gone. What we're using now is the fact that we have a group of salons and we are known in the sector as being acquisitive. So, this deal we did right at the beginning of last year, so 2022, we use this tactic. So we get a lot of inbound inquiries now because we've got a good reputation for buying in that space. We get a lot of inbound inquiries, and one of the first things that I say to people if I speak to them is, we've got a lot of salons. We're not that interested in buying many more at the moment, but if it works for us, we'll take a look at it. And it kind of sets the scene with the seller.
Well, it creates the right dynamic for a negotiation, doesn't it?
It does. And this lady, I mean, I'll give you this example. I'll give you another one, actually, we did later in the year. This lady, she approached us actually at the beginning of 2021. Good little business, very healthy, profitable, decent size, been around 16, 17 years. And she, at the time, she said, I want 100,000 for it. And this was April 21. And we said, well, based on the paper value, and one of the tactics we started using, mainly because we had such a big pipeline of these deals going on, and there was a lot of tire kickers and time wasters,
yes.
And their business is worth 50,000 and they want 500,000. So one of the tactics we employed quite early on was we sent them an email. So they sent all this data to us, and I sent them back an email saying, this is the mechanism we use to value a business. It's not a finger in the air, it's a calculation. Based on this calculation, your business is worth somewhere between these two brackets. If you think that's going to work for you, let's talk. If not, no hard feelings. And what it did is it got rid of all of those people that wanted 500,000.
Yeah, the delusional ones.
The delusional ones. And it told me, and it brought to the table the people that actually were going to work in the parameters that would work for us.
So it's time saving for you, isn't it? It's an efficient way of managing some tremendously large amounts of deal flow.
It was. And there was one deal in particular, it's based in the New Forest, and I went back and forth 2 or 3 times from, they came to me, we had a meeting in the pub. We had 5 or 6 meet, and then we got to the, what do you want for this? And I laid out the figures, and they came out and went, well, actually, no, we wanted 300,000, and this business was doing $5,000 a year in profit for the last 5 years. So that was the point. I said, I'm not wasting any more time.
And it's a huge waste of time because quite often those people hold back the information, and they think that once they've suckered you in and they've got you and you want to buy it, then they can say anything and you'll pay.
Yeah, that's it. So this lady last year, we used the same. She said 100,000. We said, okay, well here's our valuation range, and it came in at about 50,000, 50 to 80, I think it was. She refused to do a deal at that level, so we both walked away. She came to us around December time, 21, and the bit of information she gave us, which she shouldn't have given us, was my husband's just retired. I've got 9 years left on my lease. I've got a break clause, or might be 6 years left on the lease. I've got a break clause in December, and if I don't exercise it in December, I'm in for the rest of the term. She told us that up front, and we went back and before she told us, we said, look, we'll give you 30,000, but no more. We're not really interested in buying salons, all of the usual spiel. And then she told us this information, and we used that as bad as it sounds, but we used that as leverage to say, actually, Omicron, whatever it was called back then, it's just come out. We don't know if there's more lockdowns. This is a huge risk to us. The only way we'll do this deal is if you give us the business and keep a month's worth of revenue in it.
So she was effectively paying you to get out of a lease obligation that she didn't want.
Correct.
And would cost her way more money than what she was going to give you.
Yeah, and her motivation to sell, and that's what we always look for really early on, is why do you want to sell? What's the driver for it? Mm-hmm. And her motivation to sell was her husband had retired. She'd had this business 16 years. She was a telecoms consultant. She wasn't in the sector, and she just wanted to get rid of it. Very healthy, profitable company, but she was really driven by this window.
Yes.
And we used that as leverage. She came into our office to sign the deal crying, and we knew she'd be crying. So there was flowers and champagne, and
that's nice.
And in reality, actually, what she wanted was an exit. She was less interested in the money.
Well, it's interesting because you make a very good point, and everyone who hasn't bought a business before thinks that it's going to be all about the money because they've been watching Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, and they think that everyone wants maximum financial result. But the reality is there are far more important things to people than money. And it usually starts off with retirement, and retirement is often linked to some sort of illness, ill health. Then there's just stress, not enjoying it anymore. They hate the staff hate them, and every day is a misery for them.
Yeah, that's a really good summary.
That's really what it boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very rarely about the money, and when it is about the money, it's those people that have completely unrealistic expectations on value.
Yeah.
Actually, almost all of the deals we've done, the motivation has been around retirement. We bought one in London actually last year. Might have been a year before actually. The lady was 74 years old. She'd had the business 40 years. Her mum had had it 20 years before that.
Right.
She'd put it on the market at 80 to 100,000, I think. And we paid her some money for this, but she didn't care about the money. She was just so motivated to retire.
So I think that someone who's owned a business for that long has made good money from it over the years. So it's not all about cashing in at the end because they've made good money from it over the years. Now, if they haven't made good money from it over the years, then do you really want to buy it? Because if they haven't been able to make it work for 20 years, what chance do we have over the next few years?
Very good point. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them actually retirement, but a lot of them were my spouse, my partner's retired, and now this person's got all this free time, and and I need to get out of my business.
Interesting. Yes,
there was quite a few. There's probably at least 3 I can think of we bought where that was the circumstances behind it.
When buying a business, you need a great lawyer on your team. So why not use mine? His name is John Andrews, and his details are on the screen.
So give us an overview then of the group now. So are you back to 21 with the...
Yeah, we're at 21. So we've sold 4, we've bought 4.
Okay.
So we've replaced some bad ones with some good ones.
Yeah, good.
And
And I think that's natural in every sector. That the group sort of is like an accordion. It expands and it contracts, expands and contracts, because you want to purge the ones that are a drain on cash flow, maybe a drain on time. Maybe you can't ever hire the right staff. For some reason it's a nightmare, or the lease is a poor lease, or you're stuck in an onerous lease where you're overpaying.
yeah, that's it. And for a variety of reasons. I mean, we've exited out. I mean, there was one we sold for a couple of grand, I think it was, in Swindon. Some we've just, I mean, we bought a business in Alton last year. I mean, this was a £500,000 salon, so it's a good company. But the reason, well, there were 2 reasons we bought it. One, because we managed to get a really good deal with the seller, driven because she wanted to move to Essex, where her mum wasn't very well and her daughter had moved, and so on. So we bought this business in Alton, 1, because it was a good deal, but 2, it was a 5 to 10 minute drive from another salon we owned that wasn't doing very well.
Yeah.
So we shut that one down. We moved the staff. We got rid of we dedupe a load of costs out of the combined salon, and actually the bottom line of the Alton salon went through the roof.
Yes.
And we got rid of a headache at the same time.
And tell me, corporate structure wise, did you follow the prescribed holding company SPVs?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So we're 2 steps removed from
absolutely.
anything that's trading.
So you can take a component out,
Yes.
and it doesn't affect the whole.
Yes. So every business in the group is its own legal entity. It employs its own staff. So we don't have all 150 staff sat in one business.
Which does create risk, because these days people can sue at the drop of a hat, can't they?
They can, yeah. So they're all self-contained. They all operate their own P&Ls. We've got a holding business above that, and then a holding group above that.
Mm-hmm.
Cash flow dividends its way upwards.
Yeah, great.
And if we need to, we can carve one of these out and dispose of it or sell it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly the way you need to do it. Yeah, and when you want to sell the whole group, you just sell the company at the top. Yeah,
that's it.
Fantastic. So what have you learnt about buying businesses? Because I think there's always a difference between people who sit on the sidelines and they watch endless YouTube videos but don't actually do anything, and then the people who actually take that brave first step, and then the people who don't just take 1 step, they take 21 steps and really create something very, very impressive. What have you learned on that journey that you could share with everyone?
I mean, I guess a few things. So first of all, do something. It all looks very scary. It's not. But mainly, I mean, like I say, we rushed the 4 or 5 deals, and we were very disciplined, very, very disciplined about what we wanted to go after, shape, size, and so on. And we were kind of hungry for this target of 20. We had a very good reason to do that, but we were very hungry for it. And we lost sight of, our disciplines. And actually, it turns out those were the worst salons we purchased. These were the ones we, don't worry about the staff count, don't worry about the business structure, don't worry about the fact that the owner contributes more than half of the revenue. We'll work it out because it will get us to our number.
And was that number a self-imposed target, or was there did it move you into a category of a higher exit value, and what was the idea behind that 21?
So the 20, we set a target of 20. We set a long-term target of 100 because it puts us in the top 3 chains in the country. And we wanted to get to 20 for 2 reasons. One, because it turns heads in the industry, and it has. We've got a lot of big brands that have a great deal of respect for what we have and what we've built in a very short space of time. And actually, it's opened doors. I mean, we've just launched a marketing business for hair and beauty, the hair and beauty sector.
Great idea.
And what we've done, because we employ a marketing team, I'm kind of going off context a little bit here. We employ a marketing team. We've spoken to hundreds of salon owners around the country, and we've noticed that almost all of them don't do any marketing. Mm-hmm. They just before and after pictures on Facebook. So what we've done is built an entire year of marketing campaign-led content, chucked it in a portal, and we're now selling access to that portal
very good.
for an annual fee. And we've just launched that in the UK and America and Canada. But because we've got a group of our size, the 20, we're able to open doors with the big brands to promote that kind of thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to get to 20 for two reasons. One, because it turns heads, or three reasons actually. Two, because it creates enough critical mass to build a group.
Mm-hmm.
And three, because our plan to get to 100 required us to get some external investment.
Okay.
And if we got to 20 in a short space of time, we demonstrate
it's proof of concept.
That we're able to acquire. We've got an engine that can acquire.
Yes. So there's a very good reason for getting to that number.
Yeah.
But that then, and I can relate to this, by the way, because I had a goal to be, first of all, a top 25 group. And then we realized that we could do top 25. We got to number 13 the first year that we were listed. And then a top 10 group. And we got to number 4. But the goal of reaching number 4 was actually the wrong goal, because the same situation as you, we took our eye off the ball on some of the diligence. We did deals that maybe we wouldn't have done just to get those numbers up.
Yeah. And we met with some investors actually on the back of back of the 2021. We met with some investors very keen, very liked the story, liked the fact that we had risk spread across multiple entities. They liked the idea of getting up into that top 3.
Mm-hmm.
But actually the message from all of them, and one of them said, well, I think we were looking for 2 million as a funding round at that point. And one of them said, well, why not go for 5 million and just go and buy hundreds of these things?
Mm-hmm.
But the message from all of them was, great, we can see you can buy hair salons. We can see you've got a model that works. What we don't know is whether you've got an ability to then turn those salons into profit. And they were all shut at the time. So all of them said to us, look, sit on them for a year, 2 years, whatever.
And it's like, no, we need the money now.
They all wanted us to prove and demonstrate our ability to operate a profitable
because that sort of capital wants certainty, doesn't it? And certainty comes with historic figures, not on forecasts.
That's right.
I've been through the same thing. I understand. I wish we'd spoken about this earlier, because we could have shared some stories about this.
But I mean, certainly back end of 21, we had no appetite to buy. Last year, we've done a lot of consolidation. We bought some more. We're now starting to turn the wheels again on a proper acquisition. And we'll probably revisit that. I mean, we've bought in other sectors over the last year as well. So we've launched a marketing business. We've also bought into a marketing business. So we own half of a marketing agency. We've just bought back into the IT sector, for instance. We're just buying a Spanish restaurant, of all things.
Slightly diverse.
But this is it's a local. So I've known this business for a long. It's been around 40 years. Very, very well known. And as restaurants go, I mean, it's a £1.2 million business doing 300 grand of profit.
I've just had someone join Mastermind in Norway. And his background is restaurants, and he opened up 70 restaurants in his sort of corporate career, and he's doing now the same by owning them all himself, but buying the restaurants, and finding a concept and then rolling out the concept.
So we've dabbled in other spaces, and but certainly in this sector where that goal of 100 is still there. But we've had to spend a lot of time getting things right with the ones we own. So we can then go forward. Even onboarding, you take one of these on, having a slick way of onboarding them quickly.
Absolutely.
We found is vital. Staff get really unnerved about these kind of things. So we've got this.
Even though their business being bought could be the best thing that ever happened to them, they always think it's the worst. They
always think it's the worst. They all use it to make their demands.
Absolutely. All those bonuses that the previous owner had promised them now need to.
We've had a lot, and we've learnt all of this as we've done. as we've gone along. But we've got a pretty well-oiled onboarding process now. You know, we bought 2 salons last month in London, and they just get dropped in. There's a team there that just run through this process.
Should get easier, yeah.
And our measure, I guess, is that we don't lose staff in the first couple of weeks, because
I mean, these days, you know, recruitment is harder than it's ever been.
Yeah.
You know, at least you're in a sector where people can't work from home.
Well, actually,
oh,
they can.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's been. I mean, certainly I mentioned earlier, we worked really closely with Weller on statistics. We're a very analytical.
And Weller's
business.
the hair care. Company,
so Weller, L'Oreal.
Yeah.
There's L'Oreal and Weller. They're the 2 big brands.
Okay.
Certainly in this country, and we've backed the Weller horse. But in return, they share a lot of data with us, and we're very data led. So we track numbers every single week, which I think is, you mentioned earlier about things I've learned and things that we do. We're driven by numbers, really, really close numbers.
Yes.
And I don't know where I was going with that, but
so the question was, what advice would you give someone listening who's sitting on the fence and thinking, is business acquisition something I should do? Clearly, if they're watching this video, they're very interested in it or listening to this podcast. So what would you say to those people as parting words of wisdom?
Parting words of wisdom, acquisition is by far, and I've been in business for 18 years now, it is by far the fastest and easiest way to either scale an existing business or get yourself into an established company.
Yes.
And there's all, the messages, the first 5 years of a startup are the worst. It's hard work, cash flow, and all these things. So rather than trying to go through that pain yourself, go and find one that's been there 5 years. There's thousands of them out there. Go and find one, buy it, and you've got a much greater chance of succeeding.
Yeah. Amazing. Great words of wisdom to end on. And we're doing a second video that will be released onto the channel shortly that is going to be all about how to integrate these businesses once you've bought them. Darren Jacobs, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next video.